we've ragged on the NBA last years. They have went full-blown social justice. What's going to be very interesting, though, is how it looks like on the other side of this vaccine conversation. We did a segment yesterday talking about Kyrie Irving and basically a coalition of non-vax or the remaining unvaxxed basketball players, some of which have already had COVIDs. And right now there isn't a direct mandate with the NBA, but there are in some of the states that they play in. And therefore they be coming in some conflict with where they would be playing basketball at. And I can rag on them as much as I have as a league. I do think Adam Silver is a fucking joke in that regard. But we're about to see how really player-friendly that they actually are. A couple of basketball players ain't just, and this is what's necessary, and it's not just in their profession. This is something that is necessary in virtually all professions, where you just ask questions because you know it doesn't make sense, but a lot of y'all are too fucking chicken shit, especially artists, which is hilarious because you think that that was what this shit was about. But all these quiet fucking artists who know this shit's fucked up, but they either peddle the narrative of what their handlers are telling them to, or they too chicken shit to say anything because they think their basically career is going to be ended. Of all people, we got basketball players with more nuts than the artists, which is hilarious. We're about to watch a couple of videos from some basketball players, NBA basketball players. We're going to start with Bradley Beal. And I'm going to press play on this video, and then we're going to watch another one here in a little bit. Let's watch it together. Let's see what Bradley Beal, of course, in a press conference. For those that don't know, he plays for the Washington Wizards. I almost said the Bullets. Holy shit. Throwback. But the Washington Wizards. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Every player, every person in this world is going to make their own decision for themselves. I would like an explanation to, people with vaccines. Why are they still getting COVID?
Simple question. Simple question. And that question in itself, people act like they're afraid to ask. It's a simple question. Why? You said that wasn't supposed to happen. CDC, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, you said that they were getting in these vaccines and they weren't catching COVID. That came out of your mouth. They weren't catching COVID and they weren't spreading it until, wait a minute, they were. So I like a goddamn answer. Simple question.
If that's something that we are supposed to highly be protected from, it's funny that, it reduces your chances of going to the hospital.
That's it. It's a symptom mitigator. Bradley Beal watches Young Ripper 5'9" videos. Confirmed. That's my truth. Might not be the truth, but it's my truth.
It doesn't eliminate anybody from getting COVID.
It doesn't. Facts. Facts. And some goalpost movers would say, well, that they never said. Yes, they did. I got the receipts. I already showed you. Yes, they did. They did say that you weren't getting it and you weren't passing it. They said that. And they weren't. That's what this is about. So at this point, the only people I'm putting at risk is myself.
Right. So is everybody in here vaxxed? I would assume, right? So you all can still get COVID, right?
Every last one of you.
Okay, but you can still get COVID. Right. So, and you can still pass it along with the vax, right? I'm just asking a question.
Oh, sure. And so, having COVID back around the Olympics, that, basically just saying, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but having it change your opinion one way or another, did it kind of reemphasize, I don't need the vaccine because of that?
No, that wasn't the case. I mean, yeah, I had it, but that doesn't mean I can't get it again, I mean, it's no different than somebody with a vaccine. Yes, I developed the antibodies for it, so my chances will be less likely now as well, right? But it's still a possibility I may get it. Just like there are players and coaches and staff who are vaxxed and missing camp right now because of it. So
it's a simple thing. It doesn't require a rocket scientist to understand that that's the facts. This whole moral grandstanding that you're doing is bullshit. Because you can get it and you can pass it along. We know that. The only thing that you could talk about is that, and again, that's still too hard to measure in itself. But really what we're talking about is you not ending up in the hospital, or you lowering your risk of, which most people that got it wouldn't need to go. Desperately, people in the age and shape of Bradley Beal, for the most part, they're not going to ever go to the hospital or need to go to the hospital having caught the COVIDs anyway. That's what data shows. So they're lowering their risks in which they already had a low risk of anyway. And we're talking about Bradley Beal, who already caught it. Let's listen to another one. And this man, he got a lot of flack for a lot of different things because he wasn't taking knees. Mainly that's what it was. He wasn't taking knees like with the other basketball players. Let's listen to what my man Jonathan Isaac had to say about the situation.
Jonathan, Josh Robbins with The Athletic. What is it about the vaccine that makes you hesitant to get it?
I would start with I've had COVID in the past, and so our understanding of antibodies, of natural immunity has changed a great deal from the onset of the pandemic, and is still evolving. I understand that the vaccine would help if you catch COVID, and you'll be able to have less symptoms from contracting it. But with me having COVID in the past and having antibodies with my current age group and physical fitness level, it's not necessarily a fear of mine.
And that's like, he says this, and I can imagine the faces of the idiots who probably all have fucking masks with their jabs, 2-3 fucking booster shots that they've gotten. And they're like, what? But yeah, it's so simple, dude. This is a young man. He's in his early fucking 20s. This guy, it wasn't too long ago that he was just getting drafted. He's already had the COVID. So not only has he recovered, and he's just fine, he's in an age and health demographic that is, vaccinated or not, at a very low risk of ever needing to go to the hospital, considering his fitness level, considering his age. Other than you want allegiance, what the fuck reason would Jonathan Isaac or anybody near his health and age demographic, why would they need to be taking this? You don't have a reason other than, well, you might potentially, possibly, maybe go to the hospital. But that's low risk for him anyway. And then he already has the antibodies. He's recovered. Why would he need to be taking this shit? There's no reason other than it's about allegiance. Or you're more grandstanding. You think you should be able to make decisions on behalf of other people, which is actually what a lot of this shit is about, because they don't know.
Taking the vaccine, like I said, it would decrease my chances of having a severe reaction, but it does open me up to the, albeit rare chance, but the possibility of having an adverse reaction to the vaccine itself.
Which is a fact, okay? And this is the one that's going to rub you guys the wrong way that are full-blown COVID guys. Look, or Brett Covidians, all of you guys. This is something that is almost never talked about. When we discuss COVID vaccines, you cannot ignore the data of the increased risk for things like pericarditis and myocarditis. So people having heart problems, specifically in young men and boys, that's an increased risk for them. Okay? That's not an opinion. This isn't anything that, we've been covering obviously on the channel, but this isn't anything that we just stumbled apart from. They've long conceded that there's an increased risk. That's why they are sketchy right now. Even your beloved organizations are sketchy with this shit and trying to get this shit to young folk. because of that increased risk there. So you're talking about something that they have a very low risk of ever getting hospitalized or dying from. So when you talk about cost risk benefit analysis, you're talking about decreasing possibly a risk for something that they already had a low risk of getting, and that's being hospitalized or dying from COVID, while increasing the risk for something else, particularly dealing with heart issues. That's a no-brainer for me. And I say this as a former collegiate athlete. If I was, let's say my senior year, red shirt senior year, we're talking 2013, excuse me. Yeah, I'm in the future, but 2013. And this shit happened. It ain't a chance in goddamn hell. You think right now I'm like stubborn? What the fuck you thought I would have been back then when I was a solid ass 215, 210, 215, buffed the fuck up, running 100 meters and 200 meter dashes? You think, definitely considering that there's an increased risk somewhere else. This is almost being completely ignored in the national conversation. That they are increasing their risk for something else that they've already conceded would happen, while decreasing their risk, supposedly, for something that they already had a low risk of in the first place, and that's getting COVID and being hospitalized from it and or dying.
I don't believe that being unvaccinated means infected, or being vaccinated means uninfected. You can still catch COVID.
Facts.
We're not having the vaccine.
Facts.
I would say, honestly, the craziness of it all, in terms of not being able to say that it should be everybody's fair choice without being demeaned or talked crazy to, doesn't make one comfortable to do what said person is telling them to do.
And what he just said is some things that you've heard other people that are definitely in my position that have said many times, and that is, you're not convincing me by trying to be, with the demeaning and the derogatory statements and all of that shit in the event that you find out that I'm unvaccinated. You're not helping your cause. A lot of these people think that shaming shit works because it worked on them. But a lot of people that are in the positions that we're in right now, that shit doesn't work on us, right? You could shame someone else out of the position, but it doesn't work for me, right? So when you get all ugly and shit because of the idea of someone being unvaccinated, see, that doesn't convince me. It doesn't convince any actual person with a nutsack at all. It's not how it works. So it may work on them, and maybe they're projecting.
Yeah, I would say that's a couple of the reasons that, I would say I'm hesitant at this time. But at the end of the day, I don't feel that it is, anyone's reason to come out and say, well, this is why or this is not why. It should just be their decision. And
simple.
Loving your neighbors, not just loving those that agree with you or look like you or move in the same way that you do. It's loving those who don't.
First of all, I am very impressed by this young man in the first place, because typically you hear guys talk that are in his position and age group, and be it in front of a camera or in front of a microphone and being intellectual about this situation, they can't do it, especially a lot of these ball players. This man has a future in whatever the fuck he wants to have a future in outside of ball, and you can just tell in how he speaks not only about this, but how he's spoken about other things. But that's real talk, in that it's funny how they find out he's unvaccinated, and they feel like he has to even get, to his credit, he's giving them an answer. I've given you an answer. To his credit. But he doesn't have to do that, and he shouldn't have to do that. Right? That in itself is insane. That I have to give you a reason, or I'm required to give you a reason, or you think I am, for me not being vaccinated and you being vaccinated. Well, I don't owe you shit. So the fact that we have he has his decision, to be fair, his decision or his reasoning may be and is completely different from a lot of guys' different reasons. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing. Nothing whatsoever. If you ask them, all right, why you ain't unvaccinated? Because I don't want to be. That's the end of it. That's the fucking end. This course, we're about to be saved by NBA basketball player. What a fucking turn of events would that be? Where the people that have injected in terms of the national conversation, which is why I appreciate it, number one. We talk about culture mattering all the time. In a national conversation are fucking basketball players. That of all people, that's going to be interesting in itself. Especially stars, right? And it's one thing for the Jonathan Isaacs, but you're getting Bradley Beal level. You're getting, Kyrie Irving. Like, these are all stars. You know what I mean? So among the best players in the league who I said, nah, bro, it's going to be interesting to see. But I can very well bet, and it's going to be, I guess that's the interesting part, is how long they stay the course. Because this man's phone will not stop ringing. He probably has his GM. He probably has his everybody around him, sponsorships and everything, who are in his ear about issues as such, and wanting him to get it, just fall in line type of shit. It's going to be interesting if he can stay the course, as well as a lot of these other guys. But wouldn't that be a turn of events? Because that's all it is. It's just about, like Bradley Beal was saying, it's just about questioning. I'm just asking a damn question that you can't answer. But I'm asking you a question. And just questioning it gets people going. And what you're seeing right now, and that we're covering this, is because culture matters. So the milquetoast-ass libertarians and milquetoast-ass conservatives who think none of this shit means anything because, oh, well, it's just dribbling a basketball and shooting a motherfucker in the hoop. Who cares, right? You just are culturally inept, and that's why you've been getting your ass kicked in the recent years, and authoritarian left controls everything top to bottom, because subcultures that you've neglected as importance have been among some of the most influential things in modern human history. So you better fucking pay attention. You just watched a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake. Catch us live at 12 p.m. throughout the week over at youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and follow us over at odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. If you want to watch the entire video cast after the show is over, just be sure to become a member on the YouTube channel. Of course, the full audio portion of the podcast is available for free on all major digital platforms, or just visit forcanonsake.com.